Hello, everybody. Gili Roman, an educator.
Hi to the both of you. Um, well, you cannot say those are easy days.
Yeah.
Just to put
We
it
are
in
talking
context, we are in the middle of all. Yeah,
Yeah.
just tell us what is these
Middle of
days.
revolution.
Yes, we are in the middle of a political and social crisis here in Israel, which is regarding the jurisdictional system. We are really in the peak of this crisis.
I don't
A
know
lot
that
of
we are on the
protests,
peak.
demonstrations.
Gili, it's not a crisis. It's a revolution and it's a war zone. And I don't think it's the peak because basically we're talking about bottom and it's a big black hole with no bottom. The bottom is going down and down and down all the time. I think it's much, much more dramatic and tough. But I want to ask you in terms of education, because it seems like the whole world is going same direction. And you were in the educational system, the educational office for a whole year in Jerusalem, and you decided to not to stay with them. Can you talk a little bit about it, or you rather to talk about your ideas?
Why you left?
No, of course I can.
What you're doing
I
now?
can say something about it.
Yeah.
So first of all, I will say what was my position. I was head of strategy at the Ministry of Education for almost a year, like most of 2022. It was a fascinating role. In general, like it was one of my dreams to lead the strategy of our educational system, and specifically with the last administration, we had big reforms and changes that I was part of the leading team, the steering committees in most of the I would say most complicated, most dedicated issues that we dealt with. Some of them are pedagogical, like with our matriculation system. Some of them with the
Was a big change.
Yes, it was well. It's debatable. We can talk about it whether it was a big change and how big was it regarding
Gili,
what needs to be done.
Gili,
Yeah.
just a second. I think it's important to explain the unusual system in Israel because of the Orthodox system, the ultra-Orthodox system, the Arab system, and how you put it all together. So just tell us a little bit about these divisions, and then we'll go back.
Yeah, so first of all, it's important to say that we do not put all of them all together. They're bureaucratically, they might be all together under the same ministry, not completely, even that will not be completely accurate, but those systems are very different from each other. We are basically talking about 4 different systems, or 3 different systems. One of them is how can we translate the word mamlachti to English?
No. Whoops.
The general education,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, so one of them is
secular, usually secular.
Okay, so we call it general education, which, let's say, national education, not only in national values, but in terms of like this is the national program for
it's the public education if you compare it to America.
Yeah, and in this stream we call them streams. In this stream there are the Jewish public education and the Arab public education. They are under the same roof, and parallel to them there is the religious public education,
right?
Okay, which is again under the same roof. But it's a different stream with different curriculum, different regulations, by the way. We can talk about that as well, but they are not exactly under the same regulations that the non-religious public education is, and of course not the same regulation as the Arabic public education. And the last is the ultra-Orthodox
Right, the Haredi,
stream,
right.
which some of it is under public education, and under the ministry, and most of it is privatized. It is sponsored not completely, but greatly by the government, but it's not controlled, or let's say slightly controlled by the government in terms of curriculum, subjects of studies, matriculation, even the teaching systems and methods. So the amount of regulations, of course, is much minor than the public education. So those streams altogether are the Israeli educational system. We had, like, the ministry, the mandate, we are dealing mostly with the public education, of course, which is the non-religious and the religious public education. And so the changes that we dealt with are mostly regarding to that, although we are, as the strategic department, of course, also thought and planned, mostly try to oversee the dramatic shift in the population in Israel, that the demographic changes that are going to already today create this division as a much bigger division than it was in the past, and it's going to be even bigger. It means that mostly the ultra.
You see, the ultra-religious and the Arab are getting bigger than the
Arabs are mostly.
Wait, Gili.
Yeah.
You left before the whole last 3 months.
Yes, but what we're talking about has nothing to do with it. He's speaking about the changes that he witnessed.
No, I'm asking. You left before
Yes.
the revolution that we are in the midst of now. Why did you decide not to continue?
Okay, so I think that the easiest way to explain that is that I felt that it would be a lack of integrity, professional integrity from our side, to be in a position that's supposed to lead strategy in a system that cannot follow strategic plans. The way that the way, so it was, as I said, it was super interesting for me. I think that I think I did my part. I don't know if it was to the best measures, but I think it was quite good, and it was honestly one of the most interesting, fascinating periods of my professional career. But I know, and I knew back then, that the ability of this administration to follow strategies is minimal. And this is because the way that our system is built, our educational system, and also our political system, and the instability of our political system. So I felt that just creating the program, creating the plans, and saying my opinions in professional debates or professional discussions, it's not enough. You need to really understand and believe that the administration can follow this. And I think that it's almost impossible. And we can see even now that a reform that we did, which is a pedagogical reform about high school and the matriculation, has been done, and I believed in that reform, and I was very involved, but it has been done very quickly, and of course it made a lot of flaws in the process, although I think it was with a lot of good intentions, because the understanding was this administration and this minister is going to be in a very limited time in office, and that created major flaws in the way that we have done it. And of course, the reform has been cancelled.
Yeah, completely.
The day that the next minister,
I want to ask you something, because you left. We know the reasons now. We're in the midst of an earthquake, and course, the educational system, it's under attack as much as all the other systems. Where does it leave the Israeli education? What does it leave us with?
So I will try to divide it into two, which I think might be even opposite explanations. So on the one hand, I want to say that the Israeli the Israeli educational system is so shaken constantly that it is kind of used to this atmosphere. Yes, this atmosphere is very, very extreme. It's much more groundbreaking. You said a black hole, okay, maybe, but in terms of the schools, the daily life of schools, they are kind of used to the way things are, and that makes them a little bit immune to changes. And you can look at it on a good hand, on the good side, or the negative side. On a positive side, they are immune to changes. Not every single change, like change of administration, change of ministers, change of political agenda, even extreme political agenda, doesn't affect the schools so majorly, because they know how to work within those streams. We also Israelis, so we know to follow regulations, but not exactly to follow everything that we are being told and being instructed. So people are very used to that. So that is, I think, currently on the positive side. On the negative side, it means that the system is very hard to change. So maybe now you'll say, okay, now in an administration that I disagree with, it might do very radical things. And so it's good that until it will really, really sink into the schools, it will take time, even if it will happen. On the other hand, when you do want the educational system to progress, to change, to have very deep-rooted changes, it's almost impossible. So the educational system is has, I would say, a great deal of innovation. I'm proud to say that I was also a part of it in the last decade, of how can we help educators, principals, head of schools, head of departments at schools, teachers, of course, to innovate independently. But as a system, it's very hard to innovate. It's very hard to change the core of how we work, what we teach, how we teach. And this immunity to change has also a very negative side. So maybe now we can look at it also as kind of a shield. So this is one aspect. The other aspect, I have to say that one of the most major issues in Israeli education is a lack of trust, and a lack of common agreement. And those things are, and the lack of trust is not just a lack of trust of political trust. It's also a lack of trust in leadership, educational leadership, and even a lack of trust between teachers and parents, which is something that is worldwide known, but it's very strong in Israel as well. And also a lack of disagreement. Where are we heading? What are our common values? Just think, how can a healthy educational system can promote values and educational route without agreeing on very, very basic values? Okay, so in this perspective, of course, the inner conflict that is abruptly now, and it's shaking us very, very to the root of what we are doing, I assume it's going to have an extreme negative impact on our ability to be coherent in our education, to find common ground, to find common values. And those things are very, very related to our leadership, our political leadership, our social leadership. And it is difficult as educational leaders to independently try to lead common values. And I tried to do it. I tried to do it in the past when I was part of. I volunteered as part of the former president of Israel team. We did a project for 7 years. It's called Israeli Hope in Education, and we tried to create common understanding and to help mitigate those streams, those sectors of society, to make them meet, because they don't meet at school, okay, and the teachers don't meet, and we try to do it and we try to help, but it's very hard to do it with the whole society and the whole political system is going to exactly to the other direction. So in this aspect, I think that we are heading to a very deep-rooted
dark
crisis in education, that it will just take time, because in education everything is a little bit slower. I think it will just take a little bit more time until we'll see how it even breaks down even more. And we can say, this is a very long answer to a question, but we can see, for example, now that the secular sector and the liberal secular sector, which felt until now that it is the public education, that they are the major part of the public education, they are reclaiming, and they want their own stream and their own curriculum and their own regulations, and they want to disattach, not from the public education as a whole, but to have an independent education stream like the religious public education has. And this is huge. It is part of the crisis.
Can you share with us one or two ideas, the way you see where it has to go or how it can be?
Right. So, as I said, one of the things that we need to do is to work on common values and to try to work on common vision. So we can do just an educational vision, like a pedagogical vision, and we did it, by the way, when I was in office. It's hard also to agree on pedagogical values and even professional directions, but it is more visible, like it is more possible to do that. But in order to do that, we need to do something that is almost impossible in Israel, which is to do it publicly, to do it in a collaborative process, in a deliberative manner with educators. And the reason that we cannot do it is because the system is so
not flexible,
unstable. Yeah, so it doesn't have time to professional processes. But we can do that, and we have to aim for that. We need to have a vision. We need to have leading principles, even if they are not, even if we don't agree about all the values. Okay, democratic values versus religious values, liberal values versus conservative values. Maybe we will not disagree of all of them, but professional guidelines, pedagogical guidelines, we need to have an agreement, and it has to go publicly in a very collaborative process. I think we have to do it. I think it's going to be very hard. Unfortunately, I was not able to lead that process.
Now you see yourself going in a venue. Are you going now in a venue that maybe you can advance?
I think that it will have to be bottom up. And teachers will have to, and I did it also in the past when I started to be more than a decade ago, when I just started to be in the educational field. With some of my friends, we initiated a teachers movement, and we try to do that. We try to create policy bottom up to come, and we did dozens of roundtables around the country, seminars, policy processes, and what we did it with the teachers, and we invited the ministry to be guests in this process. One event, we even did a huge roundtables event in front of the Ministry of Education, And we just told them, we are here. You can come down and join our deliberations. So I think it is possible to do that. I don't know how much public attention it can get, and how much teachers, which are a very weak sector in our society. I'm just going tomorrow to lead a seminar for 2 days about the public status of teachers. It is very low, but I believe that strengthening this status is going to help us, and part of it is to create bottom-up processes. So this is one. I think that we have to have a compass. The second thing is, I think that we need, and that goes back to teachers. We need to have much more, to allow teachers to have much more impact and to invest much more in teachers. And
but this is a painful point, Gili, because we're talking about budgets, and the budget for education is going down, down, down for teachers.
Yeah, no, actually, I have to say that the budget for education is only going up. It's today it's bigger. I don't know about this current budget, but it's sometimes even bigger than the defense budget, which is.
Yeah, but depends how they're using it.
Yeah, but
yes, of course. So it's not. I would say it's not a matter of budget; it's a matter of priority.
Yeah.
Also, the teachers don't get much money.
That's not the point.
They don't. They don't.
Listen. I don't know how do you even expect from the teachers to sit down and engage in changing. I mean, they are so overburdened. They have so much issues with violence. They cannot even teach now. There is so much violence and lack of respect and lack of anything in the classroom. They come home, I'm sure that
not
they
only
are
in the classroom,
in fatigue.
everywhere.
Yeah, and they are completely fatigued. And then on top of it, it's not just their personal life, but also everything that happens around them penetrate you, me, Tzili, everybody. I don't know how, in what way they can find the ability even to join you. I know.
No, I agree completely.
The energy is a beauty.
Yeah,
there are schools that manage to do that, but systematically it is extremely hard. It is important also to know that not only that Israeli teachers are being paid less than the average in the OECD. Now it's going to be a little bit better after the new agreement with the unions. But we are leading in hours of teaching. Okay, so we teach more than most of the countries in the world. We are leading in amount of subjects. Okay,
each teacher.
So it's also the amount of content, and we are leading
Amount
in
of
the
students. Amount of students in a class.
Yes, but this is part of the priorities, and we are also leading in the amount of teaching hours per teacher in class. So we are second highest in this prestigious rank. It means the teachers in Israel, most of their time, most of their weekly work, they are in class, they are teaching. Okay, when in the world there are more than 50%, they are
preparing,
learning, collaborating, assessing, okay, doing professional work. Okay, so how professional can you be, and how high your status can be if most of the time you are executing your work? Okay, it's like a lawyer will be 70% of his weekly hours in court, okay, talking, okay, executing. So it really deeply affects them. But why I'm giving all these examples, because these examples are examples of priorities, because we have so many subjects and so much content and so
Now you have
many
more. Now you have more.
we can, yes, so we cannot allow teachers to teach less. Okay, we cannot allow classes to be smaller because we prefer in Israel, and it's very Israeli, because everything here is important, and it's very hard to say, okay, let's teach less. In Japan, they've done it. Okay, they are in many places in the world, but in Japan, for example, they did like an extreme process. Then so they have to cut in half their content and the amount of subjects. Okay, and also you can see here in the reform that we've tried to do in the matriculation. So we try not to have
No way.
between 7 to 9 or 10 different subjects with exams, okay, in high school, and it's impossible because nobody is willing to give up on a subject, and not on content, and not on teaching hours. And this is a very difficult process that you need to have deliberations, because you cannot force it on people, because they have their agenda. Each subject is important. Okay, we can agree that each subject is important, but
Especially if it's, well, it's right. The liberal subjects,
yeah, well, everything. I will tell you, civics, it's important. It's important. History, it's important. Yes, math, it's important. Everything is important. But those are very difficult choices. But you cannot make those difficult choices if you don't have political stability, political backup, or public backup.
Right.
Okay, and in order for that, you need to talk with the public.
Right.
And the other option is just really to increase the investment to have much more teachers, but then the quality of the teachers will increase even more than what we have right now. And we need to do the exact opposite. We need to higher the bar for teachers to enter schools and to enter even teaching to teachers academies. Okay, to even get teaching license, and we cannot do that because we are in a shortage of teachers, because we teach so much. So this is a very complicated issue that we need to deal with. And the last thing I want to say, which is completely insane that we are hardly dealing with that, is that we have to start preparing to the implementation and the use of AI in education. So we are all trying to deal.
But the teacher don't know about it enough. You need to have a really
now we're starting to know more and more,
because this is a subject.
They don't have a choice.
Technology runs fast, and then it tells you exactly how to move on.
Tell me something. I have to ask you something. In what way the establishment, the educational establishment, think about to what degree the classroom, the teacher, the classroom, is a place to guide the students, give them the tools, reduce their anxiety about what's happening in society outside the classroom. They come with whatever they come from, different families. The news are all over the place. They are exposed. How can the classroom serve as a safe place to, make it possible for them to adjust and to digest? And
okay, so this is a very important and complicated question, and I have to take it back to EMIS, to the school that I was head of for 4 years.
People know.
Yes. So EMIS is the Eastern Mediterranean International School. It's a international boarding school. Tzili is a very big partner of this school for several years. And we had a very meaningful collaboration. And this is a very political school. 20% of the students there are Palestinians, Arabs, students from Muslim countries, 20% of the students that are Israelis, Jewish Israelis, and 60% for all over the world. And this school deals with conflict daily just by the representation that I talked about right now, but also by its mission to promote peace and sustainability in the Middle East. So this is just walking on a volcano, on an active volcano every day, because everything that happens in this region, and actually everything that happens in the world. Okay, so you're saying about Israel. Okay, so Israel, yes, is a very heated place, and things are happening here. But just imagine the school that, but Israel is the I would say, I don't know if it's the nice thing, but we deal mostly with ourselves. We don't care about, we don't occupy our mind so much with other conflict and other issues.
It's a small universe by itself.
Every single conflict, every single earthquake that happens, you have a student that is from there. Okay, so that you cannot shield yourself. So I think that in this scenario, there are basically two approaches. One is the bubble approach. Okay, that means that they will try to keep a bubble and shield ourselves in a very protective manner, to always calm things down. And even now in the midst of the storm that we are here in Israel, the general director of the Ministry of Education wrote a letter to the principals that he thanked them that they are the guards in the gate that does not allow politics to enter schools. Well, this is ridiculous. Okay,
how can you avoid politics?
This is not their job.
Yeah,
this is not their job to protect students
how
from
they reduce
reality.
anxiety.
Yeah. Okay. So this is one direction. The other direction is to invite. I used to say at EMIS, to invite conflict, to invite reality, okay, to host it, and to try to deal with it. Okay, so of course it also has to do with a safe environment, which is kind of a bubble. I think that a lot of EMI students would consider that a bubble, but I think that it's a bubble that we tried, and I know that they are still doing that as we speak, to invite these issues and give them space and allow it to be a safe place to argue, to discuss, even to share harsh views, and also to share your anxiety, to share your fears. And I think that the main thing that educators can do in order to allow students to decrease anxiety is to love them, first of all. It's to give them the feeling that they are being appreciated.
Every place, the voice can be heard.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to them.
It's to function in a big hug.
And allow them to act, and allow them to try to think of possibilities of how they can do something, even if it's just academically, even just think about options, and to start to think about it, and also to try to reduce anxiety within yourself as an educator, and to have some perspective that will allow you to hold these processes. I think that the main thing that I've done as a principal is just to hold the process, to say to the staff and to the students, don't break. Okay, that we can hold it, we can talk about it, we can deal with it. Okay?
But they don't see it in all these panels on television, in the parliament, in the committees in the parliament. All they hear is people, they cannot just tell what they think. They have to shout and curse. And I mean, the model that we see here about conversation, it's like outrageous. It was not like this, I don't know. Of course, not when I grew up, but I don't
know. I don't know, but I think here the moderation here is extremely important. And I want to say in regards to that, in order to do that, you need time.
Right.
So again, if you have a lot of content and you have a lot of exams and so it's very hard to have time for that. So here, for example, in Israel, the dealing with now, like the buzzword is social and emotional learning, right? SEL. So of course, everybody wants to do social emotional learning. Everybody wants to invest in the social, emotional process and well-being of the students. But when will you do that?
But in a big
And
way, Gili, it's basically the old way versus the new way. And the old way is about one system that doesn't prove itself, and the new way that this scares a lot of people. And, you know, they don't have the patience to develop a system in order to get used to it. And then you involve it with politics, and then, you know, it blocks everything. So there's a humongous need to make changes in the whole idea of education and how to address it and how to take the young people, you know, forward.
Yeah, I agree. But in this perspective, I think that we can look on the technological developments in a very positive manner, because if we'll know to adjust and we'll welcome them,
use it
they will
well. Yeah.
use it well. They
will
will give us a
free
lot of
time. It will free time for the teacher, right?
exactly.
It's assisting.
Exactly.
No, it
They will
free time.
allow us
To give
to
them a help.
focus on the humanistic aspects of education and
Yeah.
teaching. We will be able to very, very effectively allow the students to learn with minimal guidance, with the help of intelligent technologies, okay, and keep the center. And in this perspective, old education versus new education, actually it's old education. It's very basic humanistic education that deals with the person, that deals with values, that deals with discussion, that deals with connecting to the content that you are learning. Those things are not innovative at all. That they are very old notions that maybe if we'll use technology well, we'll have more time to focus on that. And I think that this is also the main theme of the book that I've published last year. That is a novel about the impact of technology about with regard to education, but mostly it's kind of a love letter to the basis of the educational act as a humanistic act.
You know, I look at you, and there's so much good in you, and so much humanism, and then my devil voice tells me that AI will be to free teacher in many ways, and then there will be all those evil people who will play with the AI to take it their own way.
But this is about everything.
So, you know, but
invention.
I look at you and
But that's why we need great people.
yeah, but you know, but I look at him and I say, look how much his intentions are so high, and yours too, Tzili. You're putting so many hours to try to change. Well, I hope you'll not be discouraged.
I don't think that people are aware, or they don't care, or they don't know how important educators are. I don't think that most of them give the intention even to when they put the kid inside a class and they close the door behind. That's his world. That's the person that leads his life and takes over. And I'm going back to budget because I know that the salaries for teachers are going down, down, down. They need to go high, high, high. So good people will
at least are going higher now.
But it's we won't solve it right now, and you have to go and lead a Zoom. So
we even didn't talk what his institution is
doing now.
Okay.
Now he's with the Mandel Foundation.
Which is what?
Mandel Foundation.
And yeah, and this is a leadership foundation, basically, right? Leadership in educational way.
Yes, it's leadership not only in education, in different aspects of society in Israel. Yes.
But we'll talk about it another time, so you won't be late. Bye,
Yes.
Gili. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you, both
Tzili.
of
See
you.
you next
Thank
week.
you, Tzipi.
Wait. Bye.
See